more, but however, he's been a member of our club. You did come from another club at one time, didn't you?
No, this is my first experience.
First club. It's been a pleasure to have him here. John, please.
Thank you.
Time?
Gosh, a little housekeeping. I'm practicing speech 10, and I think the time on that was 9 to 11 minutes, but I'm not completely sure.
8 to 10, I think.
What's that?
I think it's 8 to 10.
8 to 10, good, good, okay. 8 to 10?
10.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to practice, and I appreciate your indulgence. I've been stalled out on speech 10, and the reason I've been stalled out is inspiration is something I really believe in. I fundamentally believe in inspiration to move us all forward and bring comfort in the world. The world's a scary, scary, difficult place, and inspiration can help us. But I need my inspiration to have a real ring of authenticity. It's got to be real. Barack Obama's story is wonderfully inspiring, completely irrelevant to me. I'm not going to go to Harvard Law School. I'm not going to be a senator. Love to hear the story, but I just fundamentally can't relate. An inspiring story I can relate to, though, is a good friend of the crowd that I grew up with in Pocatello, Idaho, who has had an amazing personal and business life journey. This fellow's name is Doug Master. And I became acquainted with Doug in high school. My friend my friend Steve became acquainted with Doug in junior high. We went to different junior highs. And Steve was just the sort of kid that could piss off the Pope. I mean, he just made people angry by his very existence. So he was getting beat up a lot. And he made a deal with Doug that he would supply Doug with elk meat sandwiches for lunch if Doug would protect him. And it worked out wonderfully. Doug did his job, got elk meat sandwiches. It all worked out in a wonderful exchange. So I met Doug and Steve when we all ended up at the same high school. To paint a picture of what Doug was like in high school, Doug and Steve held down the foosball table in one of the hallways. They had a little foosball table that you could play. And they played all the time. They'd miss classes. They would just play foosball. Both of them barely graduated. I think both without high school diplomas, with the general education diploma that the state of Idaho has as a general test if you don't qualify for your high school diploma, which you've really got to work at not qualifying for a high school diploma. That just doesn't happen. You've got to plan that out, execute carefully, and really follow your plan to not graduate from high school. So after high school, first thing that happens to Doug is his parents, who are just salt of the earth people, are driving on Mother's Day, coming right up to Wendell, Idaho, to visit Mrs. McMaster's family. Coming back, they are involved in a head-on accident with a truck, a commercial truck, and both of them were killed. So that leaves Doug and his younger brother Gary parentless. Doug's fine. Doug's a smart guy, even though he barely graduated from high school. He can make his way in the world. Gary is not. Gary needs some help. And so now Doug is responsible for Gary. And they end up getting the most incompetent lawyer on the planet and end up getting a grand total of $150,000 as compensation for their parents' death. So the first thing Doug does is to get a job selling shoes at Kinney Shoes. I don't know if you guys remember Kinney Shoes. I don't know if Kinney Shoes still are around. So he's a shoe salesman at Kinney Shoes. And next thing he does is join the National Guard. Well, it turns out that he has a heart condition and can't stay in the National Guard, so he washes out of the National Guard. About this time, one of his dad's friends, who turns out to be a complete sleazebag, says, "I know how you can make a bunch of money. You take your $75,000 with me and we'll go to Boise and build houses. Yeah, we're going to make our fortune building houses." And Doug puts up the money. That lasts about 4 months before he gets, before they're broke and the house business fails. And Doug has just enough money left to go down to the John Deere dealership and buy the lowest end excavator, not excavator, wheel backhoe that John Deere has. He says, I'm going to get in the excavation business. And he starts excavating. So the first job he gets is to dig a basement. Contractor is an experienced contractor. Doug pulls up with this nice shiny new machine, starts digging the basement, and about an hour and a half later, the contractor walks up and says, kid, you have got a beautiful piece of equipment. You don't know a damn thing. Here's $100, get out of here. Drives home, tears running down his cheeks, and proceeds to say, okay, well, I've got one more chance. Answers an ad in the paper to dig sewers. At that time, a lot of Boise had septic tanks, not a regular sewer system, and responds to an ad to put in a sewer. He rounds up his work crew, which consists of Steve, my friend. He says, boy, I got to have some help. Steve goes down to help him install the sewer. And to hear Steve tell it, they turned this lady's yard into a motocross track. and they're the first company on the universe to actually make poop run uphill. The inspector, the sewer inspector comes over, basically covers for Doug, helps him redo the job, and put the sewer in directly. This is back in the old days. When people would actually do that.
Yeah.
So they install their first sewer correctly, cover up the lawn, throw down some grass seed, take their money and sell it. Well, make a long story short, sewer inspector becomes a good ally to Doug, works with him on the weekends on his own time to help him learn to install sewers correctly. And Doug ends up having a thriving sewer business, sewer installation business in Boise. Give you an idea of how big he got. He was a very loyal John Deere customer. He would pretty much only buy John Deere equipment if they made it. He was actually featured in one of the John Deere annual reports. He was buying so much equipment. He became the largest excavator in Idaho and ended up with a couple hundred employees, big lot full of equipment. And then, to top it off, bought a paving company. Wanted to get into the paving business, picked up another 150 employees, and eventually sold out to a much bigger company. He's a multi-millionaire today, and spends a lot of time goofing off. Still a terrific fellow. But Doug's personal life was pretty disastrous. He's been through 4 marriages. He's on his 4th marriage. We're all hoping that one will stick. And the idea, the reason I chose Doug as an inspirational topic, or Doug's life story as an inspirational topic, is you really, in inspiration, you want to give comfort to others. And Doug's story certainly has been a comfort to all of us to see how he was able to overcome a bunch of difficulties and succeed. But the best testament I observed to Doug's inspiration and that ability to give comfort was about a month ago. I was sitting at the Huntsman Cancer Center with another one of our friends from Boise, Jeff, who is currently undergoing a bone marrow transplant for leukemia. And this was the initial, or not the initial, but one of the orientation meetings with the doctor and staff to explain to Jeff how it's going to go and answer questions and make sure he's a candidate and so forth. Looked over and Jeff was wearing this raggedy shirt, it had, frayed collar and whatnot. Jeff, I didn't say it, but I thought, what are you doing? You're here, you're trying to make a good impression, you're wearing this raggedy shirt. And then he leaned forward, his jacket opened up, and it was a shirt from Doug's old company. And that shirt was a great comfort to Jeff at a time when he really needed comfort. So, inspiration is comfort, and Doug has provided us all great deal of comfort. Thank you.